Yes, good morning, class. My name is Max Eckerson, and this is for class 501 of Liberty University Online. And this is for discussion post forum 2. And let's go ahead and get right into it. And so, um, the instructions were discussing that if your state does not have the different cases of discipline, then to go ahead and look for another state. So I was unable to find cases of counseling and the discipline that happened with those. And so I went to the state of North Carolina. And I went through dozens and dozens cases just to try and get the common type discipline that happened. And so the first question does describe that, and it says, what are the most common reasons for a board to discipline a counselor? And as I went through the different cases, there was two common reasons that I found that happened over and over again. And the first one was for a counselor to incorrectly fill out paperwork, or to lack filling out paperwork. There was a case that after hours they would meet with their client. They would give there was one instance where they gave them money for a cab, and they would drive them places, and they would help them outside of the office, and that was not notated in their notes. And so that case, I believe, was the counselor was on probation. And so but that happened, incorrectly filled out paperwork. So that made me a little nervous, because I just don't want that, and be on probation. There was people that their license were revoked because of that as well. A second one that was more alarming to me, I didn't realize how common this is becoming or has been, and it's for sexual misconduct. If it's a counselor with a former client, if it is a counselor with a current client that are going through through marital issues, and are in the middle of a divorce and becoming sexually active with them. That was alarming to me, as well as with minors. So that goes into also the second part of the question, is what is my personal reaction to this? And for me, it was very alarming. I didn't realize the common place, and it really just kind of broke my heart that this is becoming common and has been common from the past few years. And so the second part of the second question is, how might self-care or lack thereof result in counselor's impairment? So as I looked through our textbook, Remley and Hurley describe on page 166 of what a counselor's impairment is. And it describes the inability for a counselor to give competent patient care. And so as I'm thinking about it, is how could self-care help this individual, or help counselors in these cases? And I believe a part of the self-care is being self-aware. And if you're knowing that you're being pulled into emotionally, and you're on the borderline of impairment, then it is our responsibility as counselors to talk to our supervisor, to talk to a colleague, and to explain to them the situation and talk with them. And so I think that's a part of self-care, is being self-aware, and whatever that looks like, to be able to help with that, so that we do not go down the road of not giving competent care to our patients. And so part of me is that impairment is happening in those cases. And so for a person to be having self-care is being self-aware. And then just also knowing, just morally, it's wrong to be engaged with a person that is not your spouse, in sexual misconduct. And then also it's very unethical. So I think being self-aware would help with the self-care portion of that. And then, so as I was looking through for our next question, is question 3. What does ACA Code of Ethics and professional counselors say about counselors' wellness and impairment? So in American Counseling Association, ACA, in C2G, it describes counselor's impairment. And this goes into how the impairment of a counselor is the responsibility of the counselor, is to see if understanding if physically, mentally, emotionally, that there are becoming challenges with their patients, or outside of their office in their personal life, if there is issues coming so that they possibly be impaired to where they cannot give competent counseling to their client. And that is on the counselor to understand that, but then also in those moments that a counselor is self-aware and understands that there's an impairment happening or very close to it, is to go ahead and reach out to your supervisor, reach out to your colleagues, and describe the situation and help them to understand what is happening, that what you're feeling or thinking or what you're going through as maybe with your family challenges. And then it's also a part of, as counselors, if we see that in other colleagues, then to, if it's appropriate, to step in or to talk to a supervisor and explain the situation and offer our help as much as we can. And then F5B talks about impairment of the students, and that is very similar, is for the student to understand if they're having physical, emotional challenges, and if they do and feel like they're going to be impaired, to go ahead and talk with their supervisor, and if they need to step away, same thing with a counselor. If we need to step away for a moment or take a lighter caseload, then to do that. And then with self-care, there's a couple of things. The ACA Code of Ethics says in F8C about self-growth and continually being educated on with our profession and what is new, and just staying up to date with the Code of Ethics and how our profession is just growing. Then there's also addressing personal concerns, and that is described in F8D of the ACA Code of Ethics, and that just explains, to me, goes more into self-care of if there's challenges that you are having emotionally, physically, and with your family, to address those, and so that we don't become impaired. And if that's going to the gym, if that's eating better, whatever that may be, or if going to a counselor and continue getting counseling. The last question is, while I was reading through this week's question, what are some questions that came up for me as I was reading through that? And so one of the questions, and kind of made me a little nervous, was the frequency of counselors filling out the wrong paperwork or filling it out incorrectly or not doing it at all. So I just wanted to see how common that is in today's counseling field. And then also, second part of that is if the board of directors per state, if they show just an intolerance for that, and if they come in very swiftly and very quickly. So that is my question. I wish everybody a great Thanksgiving, and I wish you all the best in the next coming weeks. You all have a great day.